So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. This video today is intended for businesses who want to learn how to fill out an I-9 form and what that process looks like. So an I-9 form is required for all businesses and is required to be filled out at least within 3 days of a new employee starting in the workplace. And what that so I mean the first from the first day that they get paid, and it's required. It's part of federal law, and it's the intent is to establish the ability to work inside the United States, and what that looks like. So we're going to go over the form. You can get a link to the form down below, but we'll get started. So first off, the employee in section 1, the employee writes everything. So they write their name first and last, whether or not they've used any last names, and then you go to the street address. Go ahead and have them put it. Important to note, they cannot put their PO box here. It's not allowed under federal law. They have to do a physical address. They put their state zip code down below. But it's very important to stress the fact that they need to put their physical address. If they don't have one, please, they need to put something. Now, I don't know that the physical address will ever be checked. Make sure that you do MMDDYY with respect to date of birth, and then fill out the social security number. The email and address, it doesn't go anywhere. You can write NA if you'd like, but it's not required. I'm just going to put hello, how are you here, and then the employee's telephone number. So one thing to note here is that they check where they are, whether or not they're a citizen, a non-citizen national of the United States, a lawful permanent resident, and an alien authorized to work. And so these are all different. A citizen is someone who has been born in the United States. A non-citizen national is as it sounds. Now, those typically, they're very rare. They are typically a non-citizen national is actually from often from Micronesia or the Marshall Islands. And then a lawful permanent resident, they were not born here, but they are legal to work. That's usually what you call a green card, as well as an alien authorized to work. Those are your EAD cards and so forth. The employee signs down below, and then you, the employer, go to the next line. You write the employee's name from up above, and then the most important part here is the citizenship immigration status, that you write a number, and it corresponds with 1, 2, 3, or 4 up above. So if they're a citizen, they're number 1. If they're a non-citizen national, number 2, and you write that there. Next up, you will go to List A, List B, and List C, and this is the most important part. So List A, so let's break this down real quick and discuss it. List A is List A does identity and employment authorization. Now, what that means is that you can both confirm their identity and take a look at it, meaning you can see a picture that looks like them, something like that. For American citizens, that typically takes the form of a passport. And then for non-American citizens, that can take the form of a permanent resident card or an EAD. And so you're able to look at those. You're able to look at those documents. Now, you are not to tell them what documents they should bring you. It can be considered discrimination. Frankly, I don't know if anyone's ever been prosecuted on that, but when you talk to, for example, very frequently HR people will say, I need two forms of ID. That's actually not true. It's not true at all, and it's misleading, and again can be considered discriminatory because you can bring one form of ID if it's a passport, or for permanent residents, their green card acts as a list A. And the way it works is it's either list A or B and C. So A confirms identity and employment authorization, usually takes the form of a passport or a permanent resident card or an employment authorization card. All right. And you write down which one it is, who issued it, usually USCIS or the Department of Homeland Security, as well as document number, etc. However, moving on, if they don't have a passport or a permanent resident card or employment authorization card, you can go to B and C. On page 3 of the form that you can print out in the link down below, in list B, you can do a driver's license, an ID card issued by federal, state, or local governments. That means that you don't actually have to do a driver's license. That's also a common misrepresentation, right? Driver's licenses are not required necessarily. Someone could bring in a state ID. You actually bring in a school ID card, a voter registration card, U.S. military card, military dependents, ID card, tribal document, and a driver's license issued by Canadian government authority. And all of those things are possible documents that establish identity, but it really needs to contain a photograph or information that also contains the date of birth, gender, height, eye color, and their address. In addition, on lists, you also need to establish that they are authorized to work in the United States. And you can do that with a Social Security card, unless the Social Security card says not valid for employment or valid for work only with INS authorization. If you're given a list C and a list B, the employee will need to provide a list A, and you will only turn in the list A, because if the Social Security card is not valid for employment, then most likely they'll need to bring in their employment authorization document. That's a form I-766. Because if they have a certificate of report of birth, then they will not have a Social Security card that says not valid for employment, for example. All of those, other than the employment authorization document, indicate that you were born in the United States, right? And so, generally speaking, they will end up bringing that in. But going to page 3 of the I-9 document is the way to go. Some real quick thing to establish with respect to list C and Social Security account number. Where it says issuing agency, that agency is actually the agency in the red in the middle. Especially for older workers, that is a number that is established. That is a number that is established, that is an agency established for older workers. It could be Health and Human Services. It could be a lot of things. So you don't write Social Security Administration in that line. Well, that's it for HR for the people. Obviously down below you'll sign, and I think this is an important thing for businesses to know and to understand the importance of the I-9 and establishing employment authorization. If you liked what you heard today, leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.